Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LSN Investor Fireside Chat. Thank you all for joining us here today. My name is Joey. I am a Director of Investor Research at Life Science Nation, and today I'm joined by my colleague Momo. Momo, if you wanted to just quickly introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Momo. I'm a senior investor research analyst at Life Science Nation with Joey.
Yep. So for our session today, we have invited five panelists who are all active and experienced investors in life science and healthcare. And quick thank you to you all for joining us here today. So for our session today, we'll hear directly from them about their recent investment activities and also from their perspective, what have they been observed in the market so far, and what they're thinking about the investment landscape in our industry and so on. As we are closing out 2025, it's literally the last 10 days of 2025. It's crazy. And looking ahead into 2026. And we thought this session is very timely as most of the panelists here today will be joining us at our upcoming conference, Resi JPM, which will take place on January 12th to 13th during the JPM week in San Francisco at the Marriott Marquis. So we are excited to share some real-time perspective with you guys, and we'll also ask for some any technical advice from our panelists for founders and entrepreneurs who are also attending in our audience today. So, and also before we get started, I saw that Momo also shared this in the chat today. So quick housekeeping, if you have any questions for our panelists at any point of the discussion, feel free to drop them in either the chat or the Q&A. We will allocate the last, I guess, maybe 10 minutes or so for just to pick out some of the questions and address them at the end. So, okay, that's all from me. I would love to just start with the quick round of introduction for all the panelists. So maybe you guys could just quickly share a little bit about your background and role, maybe just to give us an overview of your firm. So a quick introduction would be very nice. Um, and maybe we can start with Garth, since you're the first one on my
Okay,
screen.
great. Hi, thanks, Joey. Hi, everybody. My name is Garth Smith. I'm VP of Business Development and Partnerships at the Ontario Brain Institute. We're an innovation platform for neuroscience based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And part of our innovation platform is investing in early stage neurotech companies. And happy to be here.
And Varun, since you're the second one on my screen.
Yay! Uh, so, guys, I am an engineer turned venture capitalist. I have been a software engineer for 2 decades. I really actually wanted to be a train driver, and that's what my idea of being an engineer was. Fast forward decades, I still don't have my train, but somebody pointed out I take startup founders as well as neurotechnologies on journeys through this train of a venture capital fund. So that's what it is. Ours is an early stage venture capital fund focused on neurotech. So we're looking for very wide ranged applications of neurotech in health and I guess, yeah, health diseases and human capability augmentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Varun. Johanna?
Thank you, Joy. I'm the fund advisor for Chanaka Capital. I'm actually a neuroengineer. My PhD is in neuroengineering. My postdoc is in neurosurgery from Stanford University. Um, and I was teaching at Stanford. I have my classes in Stanford still, one of the neuroengineering classes that I teach in the summer. And I help direct Chanaka Capital research and finding companies, embedding the technology, and finding which technology we can or should invest in. I lead the team of scientists, which we are about eight scientists and a total of 20 our members. So yes, and we, like Baron was saying, we invest in early startups that focus in technology that uses the nerve system to either enhance treat, diagnose, improve any disease. We believe that using the nerve system and understanding the nerve system, we can pretty much cure any disease. So that's our focus. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. Stephanie?
Thank you very much, Joey. Great to be here. Thanks to Life Science Nation and to Resi for this opportunity. I hope I can provide a little bit of the oncology perspective here. I have a background in biochemistry, PhD, and was in big pharma and business development on the commercial side, and then in biotech companies, and now in venture. I manage the Myeloma Investment Fund, which is the philanthropic fund of the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. The fund invests in startups in this hematological disease, and I'm also teaching healthcare ventures at MIT. I'm on the faculty there, so very excited to be with you today.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. So let's delve into our first question, which is on where your attention is within life science and healthcare. So where are you most focused on or excited about within life science and healthcare today? And have any areas increase or decrease in priorities for you comparing to I guess like 12 to 18 months ago? Feel free to jump in, or I could call on
Yeah,
anyone.
I can start
Yeah.
if you'd like. So just to give a little bit of a background, what we have done at the Maloma Investment Fund is we are very quantitative, and we have done research basically on the disease area. So we looked at into hundreds of opportunities in research development and on the market. Just to give a little bit of a perspective, about 10 years ago, there were only 5 drugs on the market in multiple myeloma. Now it's over 20. And with that, we have identified 3 priority areas for investments. One is in vivo CAR T and novel CAR designs. The second one is therapeutics that basically enhance the immune system of a patient. And number 3 is undruggable targets like MYC or MCL1. And with that, we have made 2 investments in vivo CAR T companies this year. And we're also looking, as I mentioned, into companies that are targeting undruggable targets. And what we have seen at the recent hematology ASH conference is there's a lot happening also with bi and tri-specific T-cell engagers. So we're also looking into this area as new areas of investment. So we are really incredibly excited about how this disease area is developing. 50 years ago, only about 25% of the patients survived more than 5 years. Now it's over 2/3. And there were, for the first time, actually discussions about a cure study in multiple myeloma. So really incredible how this disease area is shaping out, and also looking at basically the financial projections here. It's also an exciting area. Basically, J&J's daratumumab is now has revenues of over 10 billion per year, and also their cell therapy, Carvykti, is a blockbuster. So it's not just very exciting for patients to be in this area right now, but also for investors and for biotech companies. And we see a lot of exciting programs, both startups, but also companies in the clinic. We have made 20 investments in the 6 years of existence of the fund, and 6 of our companies are now in the clinic.
I can jump in
Awesome.
now,
Thank you.
Joey. Okay. Yeah, so for us, what we've seen is that, and this might be, I think there's never been a better time to be a neuroscientist or a early stage startup company. I think that when we started investing in companies 8, 10 years ago, I could count on one hand. I was actually giving money to, so in Canada, we do a lot of in-kind investments, and you have to match a lot of investments for early stage, especially when it comes from non-dilutive sources like the government. And I'd say like 8, 10 years ago, there you could count on one hand how many people are actually giving money to early stage startups. And now when you go to conferences, you see most, if not all, colleges or universities across Ontario having an incubator. You have multiple pitch competitions. You have multiple non-for-profits in Canada that are funding early stage startups in the neuroscience space. So I think that, this is a really good time. It's still hard, but I think right now, what we're seeing is a real renaissance in terms of early stage neurotech companies, not just drugs, not just med tech, but we've seen some recent FDA and Health Canada approvals that say that digital health is actually now on the forefront in an intervention perspective, not just an assessment perspective.
I can go next. For me, quite simply, okay. So I guess as a fund, we are looking for devices. Software is medical devices, okay. But going a little more specific, some of the areas that I am personally excited to look at are these applications which are non-intuitive uh, for a vast majority of folks who hear the word neurotech, because yes, it's often synonymous with brain health, at large. But for us, the applications could be wide-ranging anywhere. So, for example, again, just throwing it out there, neurotech for inflammation, for example, right? And inflammation, of course, has a story in cancer, including, right? So, those are areas that would excite us. Me personally, I when I hear something sleep related, I first get on guard because I'm like, okay, there's too many of that going around. And so personally, I tend to deprioritize that, but that's not to say that I don't consider those. It's just that we then go deeper and look for what exactly is the differentiator. And the moment you get into that bit, then you're kind of like, yeah, you want to be in a spot where you don't need to say, oh, so how are you different from, and that sort of stuff. So particular other areas. So like I said, applications of neurotech in inflammation would be great. Other than that, heart diseases as well, and Parkinson's as well. Right. So those are things that I'm looking forward to.
I would say that the modalities that at least particularly I look for technology that quote unquote doesn't exist in fields that is still behind in research. For example, neuropathy. So there's nothing yet for solving the damage of the nerve. So we're looking for that. We're looking for solutions to problems that we still deal with and they have no solution yet. So we look for devices, integrative medicine, and um, individualized and personalized solutions because no one cell is the same, right? In your body, they don't function literally the same. So how we expect the technology that I built for myself works for you. So we focus on technology that can be individualized and treat the disease. Uh, Something that we tend to stay away from when you have technologies that are looking at only one biomarker or one modality, because there are tons of those out there, as well as technology that only uses AI. So while yes, we are a neurotech company, a neurotech venture fund, we do understand the importance of AI to improve our capacity to crunch data, to develop new technologies, but that is not the solution. So we always look for something else integrated and with the technology, integrating data. Yeah, and in different, like Varun was saying, in different modalities, including inflammation and I would say something else, IBS. Something else that we also look is that the technology should be smaller, more compact, longer lasting. So if you come with us with a device that lasted the last 6 months, a year, I'm like, who wants to go for surgery 3 times, 4 times, 6 times during the year? Really no. So we look for devices that are improving people's life.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So it seems like everyone's kind of focused on specific indication or disease areas, but I guess in general, are there any trends that you guys have observed in 2025 throughout this year? I know some of you mentioned certain things, but even in terms of valuations or deal pacing, syndicate formation, even, do you notice any changes? Do you expect these to be short-term adjustments or long-term? pretty broad and big question here, but feel free to answer any of them.
I think, and by the way, I've just unmuted myself for the rest of this call, unless there's some noise, because that is taking a lot of time to mute and unmute. Uh, so, we talked about syndicates, right? So I just wanted to mention something there. Yeah. So, for example, use our funds example. We are a 2 million fund, right? The idea for us is to go early. And so we are not afraid of the technical depth. Often founders are very surprised by the questions that we ask and the publications and so on. And so that part is great. And we want to make sure that we are not dragging our feet, and we are enabling the startups to actually get their momentum, right? Of course, if this everything is solid, the diligence checks out and everything, we are not shy to put the first check, or the last check, doesn't matter, right? Uh, that said, with a relatively smaller fund size, we do recognize that it does become limiting to drive forward the momentum. At which point, we can easily set up a SPV, special purpose vehicle, right? And so that doesn't come through the fund. It just is like a tugboat, or a sidecar, essentially, that we pull in more money. And this is useful, especially if at a fund level, my investors are excited about a particular company or a particular application. They often ask, hey, can we do more? Can we invest more than just maybe whatever 50,000 or 100,000 that we're doing? And then that's why syndicates are still relevant. They become a very strong source of funding. And you also have the advantage that the same VC who has set up this fund, who's writing a check, is also setting up this SPV in some capacity, and then therefore augmenting your fundraise. So that is pretty useful. And I've seen not only us, well, we haven't done any SPVs this year so far, but I've seen my peers do it in the medtech field, especially, right? And some of them are also new, relatively new funds, and they're even slightly bigger funds, and yet they do SPVs. So that I just wanted to comment on that and then pass it on to somebody else.
I will add one thing to Varun, tapping into that. Um, the valuations, right? We have seen that there has been a recalibration of the valuation on the companies, right? So they're not evaluated so high and it's just going down and so forth. It's kind of recalibrating. Also, a trend that we're seeing, and we are particularly in Chanakya Capital, we are scientists evaluating technology with a team of business experts. So due diligence has been much more tighted, and we're looking more at data, and we see that trend across other funds that we collaborate with. So I would say that's what's changing. It's not so much that there is not funds, there is no money. It's just that it becomes more more specialized and more tied in and more focus on what is the technology, what data do they have, what is the success that this possible company has. And it used to be more like, okay, you have an idea and then you put money. Now it's more like, okay, let me take a look at what you have. And if this actually can have a success, because just one idea or just the company or just the technology alone is just not enough. So we also look at the team and what are they bringing, right? So I would say that's what is changing. And I pass it along.
Yeah, what we have seen is basically the valuations for early stage companies are still challenging. So they've been going down, while there is actually for the valuations for clinical stage and later stage companies have gone up. So both investors and pharma companies want to see ideally clinical assets, but obviously those are getting scarce. At the same time, what we have also seen, even for, I would say, companies up to phase Series A, it's challenging to get the syndicates together. And for that reason, also we always require syndicates, but we actually strategically decided to lead seed rounds by next year. We haven't done that before, but we will do that in the future. And the other thing I want to mention, because that was a question in the chat, there was a question about whether we also invest abroad. Yes, we are interested to invest abroad. We have two companies in Israel, we have two companies in Canada, and we're also looking into other European companies and would be very, very interested to increase that because there is great science in Europe. The translational efforts are sometimes a little bit more difficult, but because I'm originally from Europe, I've worked and lived in Europe, so would be very, very happy if anybody has any interest. Yeah, please also feel free to ping me separately.
Um, yeah, I don't really have much to add. I think everybody hit the points. I think that the evaluations we saw during the pandemic were tech-like, and it was kind of crazy. And now it's back to more reasonable things. I was just talking to the group about an event Resi runs in London, UK, a couple weeks ago, last week. And the amount of just really good companies, it's astonishing how many just really good early stage companies there are right now, and it's not very difficult. But I want to just continue that conversation, the points that Varun was making about different structures. And what we're seeing is that, we have this traditional thing about thousands of us going and spending a lot of money in hotel rooms in San Francisco for JP Morgan Week. And that would be our prime fundraising, for companies. But we're seeing them a lot more, in the States, like the Myeloma Investment Fund coming from the foundation. These are interesting structures that are really emerging now, and family offices becoming more formalized in their direct investments into companies. Um, we see Canadian companies tend to want to focus on the US, but they're having a ton of success now trying to getting into individual EU markets a lot easier. Um, and that's when they really learn to be a tech, they become a healthcare company, not so much a tech company, not so much a drug company or an assessment company. They become a healthcare company in a much easier way. So we also do the special purpose vehicle model, or we're going to in terms of pooling capital. And I think that people have to be open to different structures than the VC model. I think there are different ways for companies to get funded without the usual um, shackles of VC funding.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to also underline. Again, we are a philanthropic fund, and we see more and more foundations. Yeah, big ones like the Gates Foundation, but also others coming in, and we also see more and more angel investors, wealthy individuals. Who have a certain interest in an indication or even a certain location, and yeah, family offices in general. So would encourage any, especially early stage companies to broaden their horizon a little bit further and also look into those. There's also some angel investment groups, like Launchpad, for instance, in Boston. So those provide more and more funding for early stage startups. And there's also some university associated venture fund. Mass General Brigham has one. UPenn has one. So many more options also for early stage startups.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you all for sharing that. I thought those are very useful information for especially entrepreneurs and fundraising companies to keep in mind of. And just to switch gear a little bit, and let's go a little bit forward looking. So heading into 2026, how do you see the fundraising climate evolving as we move into the new year? Any, I guess, prediction or just overall, what do you think of the landscape overall would be like for 2026?
I would, if you don't mind, I would start by
Go ahead,
saying
please.
that most of the companies and the technology is moving towards solutions in the neuro space, as I was mentioning, and it's specifically because now a lot more people like us, right? We're aging. So those are most of the modalities of the companies now. And and again, I will repeat the same rhetoric. It sounds crazy, but yes, the expectation is that companies should come with more data, more plans to be successful, realistic regulatory plans that actually would happen, that you can actually happen, and you can pivot quickly if something fails. That's what I would say, at least in my perspective, and I will pass it along.
Before somebody actually
Um,
jumps in, I just
yeah, go
wanted
ahead,
to
Varun.
quickly interject on what Joanna said. Most of us are not aging. Everyone is aging, right from the time we are born, by the way. So just leaving leaving it with you, but go ahead, God.
We're raising right now. No, I'm just joking. So I'd say a lot of funds are, I'd say that this was a very difficult year for people that were raising for venture funds and for all funds. I heard of people filling out their disbursements with debt kind of financing. It's been a very difficult time. We're pretty optimistic. We think that, again, if you do the traditional channels of fundraising, it's difficult, but you have to just get creative. You have to look at other sources of fundraising, um, because especially in the diseases that are on the panel, like everybody's been affected, right? So I think that if you stick to the traditional ways of pitching and to the same investors all the time, I think you're going to struggle. I think that you have to broaden your search to outside the US for sure, and then still maintain the ability to just accept the fact that some people want to fund some things differently than the VC model.
Yeah, I can only reiterate what was said, but for our disease area, I'm quite optimistic. There will be some companies are going into the clinic. There will be some very exciting clinical data, and that will hopefully also precipitate more interest from pharma companies. So we know that I mean this is an age-old story that many of them are facing generics and will need to fill their pipeline. So with some of the pipeline of the companies advancing, hopefully we will see a little bit more deal activity. The IPO window is still closed, so hopefully that will open up a little bit, but I think we will see more M&A or collaboration opportunities before we see that opening up. But definitely JP Morgan will it will provide a good temperature check on what we can hopefully hope for in the next year.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, bouncing off of that, Stephanie, I mean, how are you guys all thinking about your exit pathways over the next year or 2 years? Like, I mean, you mentioned also, founders should also start looking at different types of investors as well, for start, not just looking at traditional VC models, but um, is there anything else founders should be planning differently in this environment that we haven't mentioned yet?
I mean, it's not terribly different, but one thing we are seeing more and more is even if companies raise larger rounds, that they're more and more tranched. So yeah, tr trying to raise a larger round, but having the round tranched based on milestones, and that's something that will also de-risk it for the investors.
Yeah, I think to me, the question of exit pathways in when an audience has a lot of founders is kind of unfair to the founders, I feel, because look, we want to incentivize the founders to build the right science and technology, right? Not incentivize them to take shortcuts. And so again, speaking from a VC perspective, and this goes to what Gato was talking about, a lot of VCs do have that pressure to show the returns, right? Which is not necessarily true of family offices. So he is right, actually. Family offices do become a significant source of early stage investments, philanthropic funds as well, grants, right? And so, but then, obviously the VC route is available, but the specific thing that you want to account for is this. So when you are out pitching, even though as a founder, it is not your problem that the VC has to show returns, at the end of the day, if you're seeking funds from the VC, then that is maybe an angle that you need to strongly think of and see what you can do in your development to optimize things, right? And make it to a point where the milestones, the inflection points are seen. And by inflection point, I mean, like again, we talked about regulatory. Hey, can you get to regulatory? What do you need to get there? And in order to need to get to that spot, can you do some of the conversations early on, tie-ups with universities, hospitals to get the data, maybe collaborate. So that is how it has to trickle down to that level for you to be prepared to raise good rounds and show up as a top contender for a VC fund with that exit timeline and exit kind of a pressure that we're talking about. Otherwise, biology doesn't care, right? And so doesn't technology, which works with biology. Like biology doesn't care for like, oh yeah, Chanakya Capital is an early stage fund. We need to show them returns. Like doesn't help, right? So that's what. So it's a little bit of a tussle there. So to the founders, I do sympathize with you're having to show these things, but again, when you solidly think through these things from day one, that will help you, right? So then along the way, every single thing is your North Star is basically no matter VC fund, family office, showing milestones, showing progress, optimizing these bits will always put you in a good standing.
I will add one small part to what Varun just mentioned. Particularly in Chanakya Capital, one question that we always have, because like Varun was saying, is biology, is neuro, is that's just the way it works. I usually ask, okay, what happens if it fails? And we go in an earlier stage. And so that question is usually to understand if that founder and the team understands the technology, the application, and the possibility that you could pivot really quickly into something else that, maybe salvage the technology, or maybe there is another application. So we're always looking to that, because even though you put your milestones and set up these and have, a timetable, reality is that they all can fail. Everything can fail. So what would you do? And that usually is the same question you get as a PhD. When we're doing a PhD, what happens if it fails? That's all. Pass it along.
Have I answered yet, Momo, Joey? Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot. So, I'd say that what we're seeing is again, so the way we invest, we use a pull model, right? I wish we had huge due diligence teams that could pick out a company out of all of the different types of companies. Basically, what we do is we ask our companies to go out and find those good follow-on investors, and we help de-risk that investment for the follow-on investor. First, we have to make sure the follow-on investor is not their cousin working in investment banking in Boston. But it's important for us to have real investors, and we find that the quality has gotten really good. So, I mean, we're prepared because of the mandate that we have to invest in things that maybe don't have a cajillion dollar market, but will impact, the lives of, 10,000 families in Canada, which is just fantastic. So, if that's the mandate you have, then you're going to be okay to repay back a loan, right? You might not get a 10x return on an investment. And again, it's just this flexibility. We're hearing some companies, not going public in the US. They're going public in the crazy, cowboy exchange in Canada, which we've had lots of success doing, or in Europe, where there's these exchanges that have basically this crowdfunding mentality, where you could basically go and graduate from exchange to exchange. There's just so many ways to do this. It just takes time and bandwidth. And I think a lot of these companies, and what we're seeing is, and this is, again, this is just what we see. Please don't get mad at me or throw anything at me. But what we're seeing is a real need for companies to be really sophisticated early. So when there's founders that are, and I'm a scientist, I'm a neuroscientist, and I've done a couple of startups and everything like that. I think that the days of a founder scientist taking the company into a funding round is getting more scarce. And I think there's so many people out there that are seasoned veterans that can help a small company. And they probably don't need to get paid for a couple of years. But I think there's a need for a lot of these early stage companies now to get a level of sophistication that chances are they didn't really need back in the day. And I think that's been a big difference. The connections that that person brings to really help those relationships and finding those sources that are kind of, hidden away from the usual places.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So those are very important points for companies, especially those are looking to fundraise in 2026 to keep in mind of for sure. And I would like to just get a little bit more specific here. So since all of you will be joining us at JPM 2026, and some of you has been coming to Resi and being a long-time supporter, can you share just a little bit more about your typical sourcing process and also just in general, what makes a founder or start or an early stage opportunity really stand out in a conference setting? So for example, if they're attending, especially if they're attending such a busy or hectic conference week like JPM, what makes them really stand out and how would you like to be approached usually from investors' perspective?
I am definitely not going first.
Then I will start.
Please.
And particularly, at least I like to see someone who can describe what is their problem that they're solving, what is the mechanism, what is the idea that they have quickly, maybe 60 seconds, 1 minute. I call it, the minute pitch. If people here can understand that human attention is about 6 seconds, that's all we have. After 6 seconds, if you don't got my attention in 6 seconds, I'm gone. So I need to know what are you doing, how you're solving it, and how much are you looking for, right? And don't make it complicated, please. Sometimes I hear these overcomplicated solutions, and then you end up wondering, what was it that doing? And believe me, we will remember only the bad conversation we had. Don't even remember the person, and we just wonder, oh yeah, I remember that, And unfortunately, I would say, um, just like any other area, ventures, we do talk. So we share each other's notes. And so you talk to one, you talk to the other one, and then, oh, no, stay away from it. So I would say just be prepared, have your materials ready, concise, the idea clear, simple, short, and sweet, and just, you can talk to me like any other human being. Hey, I will pass it along.
Yeah, following up on that, as was said, we do talk. So we have actually done an analysis of where are we getting our most successful or most promising leads from. And most of them actually come from fellow investors because they have done the diligence before, and yeah, they've looked into the company. So that's an idea, yeah, also for the startups to use your board members, use your investors, use your SAB for connections. Because if a fellow investor comes to me and provides a lead, this is like if you're looking for a job, if you have a warm introduction from somebody, this is so much more successful potentially. And the second point is, what are we looking for? So in our fund, we're looking really for moonshot innovations. So yeah, not generics or Me Too's, really something truly transformative potentially in terms of the science. But it's a composite evaluation. We look for ideally a leadership team that has raised money successfully before, that has experience to prioritize indications, put together a strategy, and has ideally also done an exit. And then it's also we look into who are the other investors for the reason I mentioned before. Um, and the last point to also make to be really prepared and clear on how much are you raising and what are the use of proceeds. So that's really clear to us also as the investors, and as you're approaching investors, to be really selective and prepared about their background. So many of the funds have, I mean, the funds have usually life cycles, and earlier in the fund, they might invest in earlier stage companies, and later on they have to invest in more later stage companies. So doing the homework and only targeting the ones that actually speak to kind of the stage of investment that you are targeting is definitely helpful. And yeah, do the homework on what is the indication, what is the focus of the investor, so that this is a really targeted outreach effort.
I think I'll specifically focus on the approach part, right? Approaching VCs, or how do you do your research part, or what do you say? Um, I've seen a wide variety of pitches. The thing that will not work is you bump it. So again, with conferences, a lot of times people have this rosy-eyed view that, hey, I have this serendipitous meeting with somebody and then I get funded $1 billion for my project. Great if that happens. But hope is not a strategy, right? So that is not what you want to bank on. But being prepared will put you almost in that spot, right? But what is preparation? So yes, definitely, like Stephanie said, understand or look up, and if you don't have information, you can give a brief, like a two-liner. And this is like on the conference app, for example, right? So you have a chance to introduce yourself, put a link, and if the VCs or anyone actually, potential stakeholder is not asking you anything back, that's probably a sign that they don't even know what to do with it, right? So all you need to do is, if you have the serendipitous 1 minute meeting, do not waste it on the technical details. Explain. I mean, you might ask, might make it interactive. Hey, are you familiar with this problem? No? Okay. Then you have to make a call at that time. Are you going to explain? Is that person looking like that person has time? Maybe they're going to get lunch and this is kind of getting in their way. So these are nuances that are very important, not just from a VC perspective, but even from your perspective. You run into me, for example, and you're trying to explain a problem right from the first second. I may not even be receptive. I'm not even like sure where this is going, or so try to be clear, explain the problem and why your solution, and see if that's a fit. If the VC is not asking you follow-up questions, that's usually not a very good sign, right? So you want to get them to ask you questions like, oh, tell me more. Oh, I'm curious. If that's not the case, then either the VC is not interested in being a VC, or they're not interested in your company. So either which way, you should not be wasting your time. So be very mindful of that, not just for JPM, conferences in the future, but particularly for JPM. I don't know how many people have been to JPM before, but by God, it can get very, 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 very chaotic. And so you're running around from what seems like place to place and probably even city to city, even though it's San Francisco. But you really have to conserve your energy. Do not be afraid. As soon as you see that there is no interest from the other person, just cut it short, save your energy, and reflect on what might be something that you may have missed, and then just go for your next pitch, right? So yeah, definitely research, but I was focusing on hopefully how you approach and how you even cut short a conversation. That's also an important thing for you to think of.
Great. Yeah, again, everybody's kind of hit all the high points. So I'm just going to tell you how we source deals. We have two programs. We have the investment fund, but we also have a non-dilutive startup program that we offer to, it's like a pitch competition every year across Canada. I know we have the word Ontario in our name, but we support Canadian neurotech companies. So we have this annual event where people can apply and they can come pitch, and we fund up to sometimes five, sometimes 10. And we get about 50 applications, 40 to 50 applications every year. And so we see a lot across Canada. And then we do pitch competitions across Canada. We sponsor a lot of events. So, the cool, and, Canadians are nice. So we talk a lot, and, we kind of know the companies, we all kind of act as a portal into Canadian neurotech. But and the other thing we do is we also take delegations of companies to partnering events like Resi. We've sponsored Resi in the past and brought companies, and we pay for the registration fee. They can They can all bunk together in one hotel room in San Francisco. So we bring them to their investors and we have them, we also do a lot of legwork in terms of our portfolio companies, in terms of helping them. So we've been really focused only on Canadian companies. And so in the very near future, we're spinning out a structure out of the non-for-profit into a for-profit entity that will be able to now fund global companies. So that's going to change the way we see things. And we've been doing a lot of legwork around, coming on panels and, talking to investors around the world around, we're going to use the same model. We're going to de-risk it for follow-on investors. Now the focus is going to be not, in Canadian companies still, but we now have the ability to invest in global companies. So that's the switch. I don't know what the rest of the people say, but there is so much deal flow right now. It's hard to kind of focus on every single one. Unfortunately, I'm a bit of a neuroscience nerd, so I love talking, and sometimes I talk too much, as you can tell. And I don't mind sitting there and talking to companies. I would just say do a lot of like Brian said, do your homework before you come to JP Morgan. Don't take all your meetings. You can say no, it's
Yeah.
okay. Focus your energies on the ones that just fit your sweet spot really well. Now, if you don't have good meetings and you want to do some follow-up, sure. But volume is hard because, but to do your legwork ahead of time and who is and reach out and make sure that they're really interested, make sure the right person's going to be there. I think, especially for pharma, right? So pharma has many layers. If you're talking to somebody with the interesting title, but if you're talking to somebody that's the global lead for, strategic partnerships or product evaluation or, any kinds of things, that's the person you need to spend some time with. So I would just say do the homework. Um, uh, Deal flows, there's lots. We rarely find a company that's the only company and that's in that particular flavor of neuroscience. And I think the biggest thing you need to tell investors is what differentiates you from the other 20 companies that are doing the same thing.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And I guess most of our attendees here are assuming startups or, founders and entrepreneurs. And I'm sure our panelists can relate, but the investors do get a lot of meeting requests, especially during JPM Week. It is a very hectic time. Um, maybe you guys can agree, but I'm sure some of you get like hundreds and thousands of meeting requests. So just because you guys might not answer a startup, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a no to, right? Could just mean your mailbox is loaded with different meeting requests and just haven't been able to get to that yet. So I guess from our side, would also just like to note to the startups that that might not necessarily mean a no just yet, but yeah. Uh, Great advice, everyone. Thank you so much. So I think we're just gonna jump into Q&As here really quick. Um,
Momo,
very,
could I just answer and can I just say
yeah,
something about that? I
yes.
think we all have to be good humans to each other, like no
Yeah.
matter what,
Yeah.
right? And so if someone's taken the time to request, they've done their research, and the very least you could do is just say something like, yes, no, maybe so, like not now, I'm buried. Hey, can't make it, blah, blah, blah. But just not, I think we just, no matter how, we're all trying to raise money and, try to be like Gordon Gekko and stuff like that. So I just think we all need to be good humans to each other when we have these interactions. That's all I have to say.
Yes. Thank you for putting that in there, Garth. I agree. Especially when it's so busy. I think it's easy to forget that sometimes. So yes, thank you for noting that.
No problem.
And usually VCs are the culprits, I should tell you. That is the one thing, that we don't, we pride ourselves in, that and look, like God said, right? We want to treat each other well, right? Treat each other well, right? It doesn't mean that, oh, just because I take a meeting, oh, yeah, sure, I have to invest. No. But on the other hand, it doesn't hurt to be kind, right? We all are going through our journeys as well. But note, I've been really surprised at some of the founders sometimes who don't like, who have this I don't know, air about them. So any which way, I think just be nice, rather kind. And JPM is where you definitely need that kindness because it's going to be chaotic. So just let's brace up for that.
Yes, yes. Glad we're all on the same page. Okay, very simple, quick, easy question. I guess we might have forgot to put this in, but I guess everyone really quickly, what is your stage and range of investment? How early do you go? What's your check size?
I can go first. Yeah. So we are early. That's the best I can say because look, we have four companies in our portfolio from in the 8 to 9 months since launching, right? All four of them are outliers to a point now. I feel like the outlier itself is a generalization. So we have done ticket sizes from 25,000 to even 200,000, right? But again, it really is a function of the stage of the company, milestones, etc. I would say from our side, our average check size could start with a 50,000, and that's because we are still fundraising too. So unlike some of the other VCs, they may have completely fundraised. We are still raising, but much like we advise our founders or any other founder, hey, you have to iterate, you have to show progress, and then go to your next milestone. Exactly the same thing, I'm doing as a fund manager. Uh, just that I'm the CEO of my fund essentially, right? So 25. Think of us as a 25 to 50,000 with quick interest, quick work, and that's where we look at. And the sweet spot is typically I, the first or the second raise from your university or tech transfer or your early stage angel checks, sort of a thing.
Yeah, we invest typically between 250,000 and 2 million per round. They have to be companies, so we don't do pre-seed. We do seed stage, Series A stage. Typically, we've done up to Series C, and we reserve up to 5 million per company for follow-on investments, and we plan that also that we can hopefully stay with the companies as long as possible. We invest only in private companies, so if the companies, obviously, if they get acquired by a pharma company, we get a return, and if the company goes public, then we sell the shares after the lockup period is over and reinvest the proceeds then into the next companies that we fund.
Wow, that's impressive. So we have two, like I said, we have two programs. We have our startup program, which is $100,000. And typically, what we see is professors start companies all the time. They have a very busy day job being a professor. Usually, there's some poor postdoc in their lab that's actually running the company. That's the person that we take and not take. We strongly encourage for them to leave academia and start being part of a incubator somewhere that in the thousand that we built across Canada. And then what we do is our other, like I said, is we do pull model where companies have engaged in a venture group or family or whatever revenue stream. And typically, Canadian companies go to private investors too early. We don't have a nice SBIR program that the US has that can put a couple million into a company. So what we do is we have a conversation with the follow-on investor to say, what are the product development milestones that you need for you to be really excited about this company? And that's what we pay for. Our investment goes into directly into product development to get them to be a better due diligence target for a much larger fund. And that's been relatively successful. And our check sizes are anywhere between, we do 250,000, we've gone as high as 800,000. But around the baseline, it's like 400, $500,000. Now that we're spinning out the for-profit, we obviously want to scale that up to the $1 million round. And then thanks, Mo. At the $1 million check size, and we feel that's the sweet spot. The $2 million for early stage companies is like a little sweet spot for them to get high up to where the more traditional larger check sizes are going to be available to them.
Awesome. Okay, so I think there are a lot more questions in here. Sorry, I can't, we don't have the time to answer everyone, but thank you, panelists, so much for joining our webinar. For those who are still in the call, you may see them at Resi JPM. That's going to be at the Marriott San Francisco Marriott Marquis on January 12th and the 13th in person. It'll be our first 2-day Resi conference. So if you're not registered yet, please feel free to check us out. If you have any questions, please email resi@lifesciencenation.com. And hopefully you'll see us all there. So thank you everyone so much, and I hope everyone has a great holiday season.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
License
Happy
Nation team.
holidays.
Thank you
Thank
so
you. See
Thank
much.
you
you.
Bye,
there.
Thanks, everybody.
Safe
Take
everyone.
care. Happy
travels.
holidays.
See you in 2026.